Okay, now I will open it up our first audience with visitors, and first off we have a presentation from some Eugene Field staff members. So if you guys want to come up here to the front, and I don't know how you're set up to do it all at once, or...
We're going to be alternating.
Okay.
All right, my name's Angie Miller, and I teach first grade at Eugene Field. And I'm here with a group of...
Excuse me, Angie, are there going to be... Is this going to go through the whole thing, or is this a presentation?
No, I'm just going to do the introduction, and then we have some people doing little parts, and
Okay.
that's when the pictures will come in.
Okay, because we'll move when the pictures come in.
You don't need to see them.
Yes. Go ahead with the introduction. Thanks.
You bet. And you guys can pass this one out so you sign in. I'm Angie Miller, teach first grade at Eugene Field School, and I'm here with a group of teachers from Eugene Field. We've spent some of our own time off and our own resources to gather information in pictures and in words, just to present you with a picture of what we see at Eugene Field School on a daily basis. I want you to think of us there with 450 students, age 5 to 9 years old. We want to give you an educator's perspective on how the facility affects our daily teaching and the students' learning. We'd also like to invite all of you, any of you, to come visit the school for a couple of days while students are there, so you have an opportunity to see the things we're going to be talking about firsthand. That's a really important piece of this, because we can sit and talk about it, but for you to really see how it affects the students, it's really important for you to be there and look and see. Okay? So first, I'd like to introduce Aaron Johnson.
How you doing?
And he's going to be talking about our electrical and technology pieces.
Okay, if we're going to show some
Yeah.
pictures, maybe
Yes,
we should...
we are now. Denise, do you need our physical address or just that we're in Silverton?
Just Silverton. I'm mainly interested in your names.
Okay.
All right. This first part that I'm going to go over is the electrical/technology challenges that Eugene Field faces. And my name is Aaron Johnson, and I work at the same school in room 12. I'm a special ed functional skills teacher. / teacher not on special assignment, but the one that helps with all the technical challenges. So the first slide, this slideshow will kind of give you guys a visual perspective of all the different challenges we face at the Eugene Field School. Those are listed on the right: electrical, plumbing, cafeteria, heating, assembly, the playground, our ceilings, and the parking. In our school, we have a huge electrical problem in that each classroom only has between 2 and 4 outlets. So we use a whole lot of switches and electrical sockets that are added on. And a lot of times, you'll go into a classroom and see at least 1, 2, or 3 power strips in each classroom. Teaching stations utilize 1 outlet, and 23 student devices are left with 1 or 2 outlets. In our K-3 building, we are having 5 to 9-year-olds set up and tear down their own mobile lab daily, which takes a lot of time away from instruction. On the floors, as you can see, we have the power strips pretty much laid out as close as it can be to the outlet on the wall. They can only go so far. And the biggest hazard about this, as you can see, is that kids trip over it. And this is an ongoing issue because we have the more computers and iPads that get introduced into the classrooms, the bigger the challenge. And going forward in technology, we're only going to be adding more. So just keep that in mind as we go through these slides. This picture on the right is our mobile lab that gets set up in each classroom every day for a period of time. And the problems that we have are finding outlets. So that pretty much sums that up. On the left-hand picture, you'll see one of our classic carts. It's kind of our media cart. Every classroom has one of these. It has our laptop charger, our projector, our sound system, power strips to support all of that, and it goes across the floor to the wall plug-in. The problem is that we use these rubber strips to keep it down on the floor, and that's what they originally installed when we added all this equipment, which was generously provided by the Parent-Teacher Club. The only problem is they have to find a way to power everything, so they go through the power cord strips, and on the bottom left you can see the rubber strip that holds it down. Originally those were screwed into the floor, but so many students going back and forth over and over and over 1,000 times a day tripped, the students would trip on it and it would rip off from the screws. So this year I went through each classroom myself and removed the screws because those were a hazard in and of itself. So the rubber wasn't staying where it was supposed to, so students could trip and rip their knees open on a screw, which never happened, but it could. So this one obviously doesn't have any screws in it, and it just sits there on the floor, which I'm sure everybody has walked over something similar to that, and it's quite a tripping hazard. This is one of our cows. It's called Computer on Wheels. Somebody's thought up that nifty name, but anyway, these are in the hallway constantly. They're kind of a hazard. You know, kids are running all day long. They're not supposed to, but they're running in the hallway, and these are kind of a big thing that's in the way. This is our nurse's office that's entirely powered by an extension cord. Ethernet cords are a whole nother issue. For most of our computers, they're all networked, of course, using the wireless network. But when our computers sit at a station, or our student computers, which are not laptops, they have to be powered by Ethernet cords. And a lot of times we have 100-foot Ethernet cords that go all the way around the classroom because the computers can only be in one certain place. So for me, example, I had to get Gary Marshall to give me a 100-foot cord when I moved classrooms this year because there's no way my student computers could be anywhere near where it comes out of the wall. And right here I just kind of explained the rubber cover that's supposed to keep the wires together. Another big problem with the wires going across the floor is that there's power going through them. And a lot of times the cords get disconnected from the devices. So for like the power speakers, you know how when you plug into a speaker wire into the back of a stereo, if there's power going through it, but it's exposed, a lot of times those get pulled out when the students go by. And a teacher might not notice, and so live wire is sitting right there on the floor, and it happens more often than you would think.
And Erin, can I mention that we use every inch of the space that we have. So with little ones, we're on the floor, and we have to constantly remind them not to sit on the wires, not to sit around the wires, but that's a problem too.
Yeah, as you can tell, it takes up a good portion of space. We try to cover these things up with rugs, but it doesn't work out too well all the time. As you can see on the right corner or right picture, there's a whole strand of wires, and the more computers you have, especially student computers, the more cords you have. And the tech department does an excellent job of trying to maintain order in all the chaos, but a lot of times things have to get moved, and the result is massive piles of wires. On the left here, you can see we have a closet that is utilized for computers, and that's probably not the safest place for computers to be. On the left, there's a laptop cart that consumes huge amounts of power, and Jennifer has recently told me that our building is at maximum output for electricity for the entire building. So the more devices we add, the less power our building is going to have, and eventually I'm sure we'll go over that and we'll start having rolling blackouts or something. But this laptop cart consumes a lot of power. On the right here we have a printer and computers. So there's a lot of electronic devices in each room. These are just kind of some general power strip pictures. That's on the left there, that's Marie Coxon's Title I room. All the computers are powered on top of the table and it runs underneath to an extension cord. On the right there is the server room, and that's just in the closet. And this is actually my room. I couldn't find any other way to power my computers, so I made my own way, and it's an extension cord that runs 3 computers. Here we have on the stage where children play all the time is the control, what do you call this thing?
Electrical panel.
Electrical panel, thank you. And some more computers with switches, more wires. And we are now on to the plumbing / rainwater buildup. And Miss Angie Miller will explain this part.
Okay. This is, well, let me just start. We have 3 sets of student bathrooms at Eugene Field, serving 450 students. We have 3 adult restrooms, only one of which is separate from the student restrooms, for 53 staff members, and then parent volunteers included in that. We have, in the north wing alone, and this is in the north wing, there are about 180 students. There's 1 girls' and 1 boys' restroom in that area. Erin, can you go back to the girls' restroom? In the girls' restroom, for whatever reason, they have found a leak or a problem with the sink and can't fix it. But the water coming into those 3 sinks is all on one shutoff, so they can't shut the water off to that one. But they've put a board over it to keep the kids from using it, but you can still turn the water on. So again, these are 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. It's wonderful to watch the waterfall that comes off the sink, off the board. So that, and I'm not sure why, but that's the best we could do at this point in time. Okay, back to the next one. The water pressure in the building is such that if you flush more than 1 toilet at a time, the waste won't go completely down, and there isn't enough water to wash your hands. On the left is the boys' sink in the north wing. When you flush one of the 2 toilets or one of the 2 urinals, the water normally would spray out. Well, the water trickles down that center column. And I asked a 3rd grade boy that was in that bathroom one day, I said, what do you do when the water does that? And he said, oh, I just splash my hands in the bottom, get a paper towel and dry them. And so that's pretty much what happens in all the bathrooms. When you flush the toilets, the waste doesn't go down because you've got, again, a number of students all flushing the toilets at the same time. And then washing hands doesn't turn out to be a very good thing. You can see that the fixtures are old. The one on the left is probably one of the newest ones. The enamel's coming off. The faucets are such that they're really hard for the kids to turn on and even harder for them to turn off completely. So you can see the dripping water has caused a lot of erosion. Go on to the next one. Next one. Often in the bathrooms or even out in the hallway, these are our heating pipes. The paint is peeling off in several areas. Young children are known to put paint in their mouth, and this paint, some of the layers is lead-based paint. The heating radiators are hot to the touch, and that'll come up again a little bit later. The next picture. The picture on the right shows a sink at full blast when the toilet is flushed. And that's often what the sink looks like when the kids leave it behind because they can't turn it off all the way. The line to the right, or to the left, excuse me, I should know left and right, I teach 1st grade. On the left are kids waiting. Oftentimes, because of the way the facilities are working, it takes 10 or more minutes for the students to use the restroom and wash. They must be supervised during this time because you can't just leave them, and it greatly cuts into instructional time. When the bathrooms are shut down for water overflow, think about those toilets that are completely flushing. All of the students that would use those toilets and bathrooms are down at one of the other 2 sets of bathrooms, really crowding things up and making the lines longer. If the students aren't washing completely, which they don't, their health and hygiene are affected, and sick students don't come to school. They miss instruction time. There is no sink or adequate ramp systems or door access to accommodate wheelchairs. And if you've ever walked down the halls at Eugene Field when it's very quiet and calm, and just take a deep breath, I don't have smell vision here, but if you take a deep breath, you'll smell the smell of urine. And our custodial staff cleans every day. They do the carpets often. The maintenance people do the best they can with the services or with the facility we have. It just seems like the smell is embedded in the structures. So plumbing is a real issue, and it cuts into instruction time in a lot of direct ways, but also some indirect ways. Now, Kathleen.
I'm Kathleen Hamburg. I teach first grade at Eugene Field. I've also taught second grade, and I've also taught Title I reading and math.
Thank you.
I love teaching, and I love teaching at Eugene Field. We have an excellent staff and really great families and kids. I get to talk to you about our gym, our cafeteria, our auditorium. This is all the same room. We have one room which serves as all 3 of those, for those 3 purposes. It's also where students wait to meet their parents when they're picked up at the end of each day. So the multiple uses for one room significantly stretch and strain our resources of time and space, and that in turn impacts our student behavior and their learning. Staff prepare meals in the basement and cart it up ramps through the playground twice daily. Once for breakfast, once for lunch. In 60 minutes, 450 students enter, eat lunch, and move through the room. This is 3 different grade levels, 20 minutes each. The process is often loud, fast, and chaotic. The students are required to learn how to move through the lines quickly in order to have enough time to eat. Not all the students can have PE in the gym. For some, it's an outdoor activity year-round. Also, the gym is not available for alternative recesses, even on stormy, wet days. Instead, the students bundle up for recess and play under cover on the asphalt playground. We use this room also as an auditorium. Our students either carry chairs from their classrooms or sit on the hardwood floor. The sound is very poor. During the first grade music program last spring, many parents could be found in the hallway on the very hot days in order to catch a breeze from the open door. And I had one parent say to me, "You don't have air conditioning?" No. And meanwhile, students were performing on crowded bleachers under hot lights on our stage. As you can imagine, the challenges from our multi-purpose room also include student behavior and therefore learning. In trying to make one room work for all of these purposes, we're simply not able to serve the students' needs for mealtime calm, physical education, or community building gatherings. Eugene Field students need a new building. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Levrin, and I've been teaching at Eugene Field for 17 years. I'd like to address the heating. Oh my, the heating. every morning around 7:10 when I drive up Water Street, I always pray that I don't see the white family truck that Gerald drives. Because I either know there's a plumbing issue or a heating issue. So, I don't know a lot about heating and plumbing, but I do know that it is a hot water steam system. Please pipe in and correct me if I'm misspeaking. But numerous times over numerous years, we've had leaks in the pipes, valves have misfunctioned, pumps have leaked. Over my ceiling, room 10 on the corner of Water and Park, my whole ceiling has been flooded. And it was like a waterfall for me to run through my classroom door where the valves were malfunctioning. Also, right outside my door, I had extensive wall and ceiling damage. The pump, which is above the boys' bathroom on the kindergarten first grade wing, and the pump leaked and did extensive damage upstairs in the ceiling and down the walls and the plaster. And so it's a constant battle with the heating system. The radiators, Angie mentioned, they get very hot when we turn the system on. We have small children. We always have to remind them not to sit against the radiators, not to touch the radiators. The radiators are exposed in all of our classrooms. There's no metal covers over them, also in the hallways. The temperature from the north wing to the kindergarten first grade wing on Park Street is very sporadic. Once the heat is on, the heat is on. It can be 85 degrees in your classroom or even warmer than that. So kids, we have to open the windows, not only because it's so extremely hot in the classrooms, which is just not conducive to learning, but with the CO exchange, with air quality, we have to keep our classroom windows open at all times. One wing of the building may be cold, the other wing of the building may be extremely hot. So the radiators leak. In some of the rooms, we have pans that catch the water, which is also a hazard. Here's an example of in one classroom where we have to keep a pan under the radiator. In some rooms, we've actually turned the radiators off if we can because their knobs are missing. So we have switched knobs on radiators. So the building is really very inadequate in plumbing and in heating, and my staff for the last 17 years has done the best that they possibly can to educate primary students in Silver Falls. But the building is much, much too old to serve the 21st century. It's come to the point where we feel it's safety is our #1 issue, and there's so many safety hazards that we have to address every single day. But we're still there doing our job, trying to teach kids and do the best we can with what we have. Any questions? Thanks.
Tina Howell is going to talk about the gym and the assembly.
Okay, I'm Tina Howell, and I've been teaching at Eugene Field. This is my 13th year, and I currently teach 3rd grade. I'm going to talk about the gym and the playground. My voice is underneath this. For one thing, there is lead paint on that is peeling and chipping on the pipes, which you saw in another photo, and it's also in the gym. The gym noise, you can hear it all throughout the school. My classroom is just about 4 classrooms down from the gym, and I can hear PE in there, and so there's always a lot of noise coming from that space, and so I have to close my door, which makes it stuffy in my class. And then also when we close our doors in our classroom, there's also road noise all the time because we're surrounded on all 4 sides by roads. So there's traffic noise coming in from the windows, and then we have to close it because of the gym, so that's a constant problem. In our gym, we cannot gather as a school for open house, for performances or programs. We have to do it by grade level because there's not enough space to house everyone at the same time. There is a balcony, as you know, but it hasn't been in use since I've been here, so at least in the last 13 years, it's a hazard. We used to have things stored up there, but that was taken away years ago as well. In the gym, there are carts, tables, PE equipment, and just stuff all around the edges of the gym. Today, my class had PE, and I would say 80% of the wall space was covered. If you include the stage as a space where you can't really be, and then carts, the lunch cart was out there. There's like a big cabinet where they keep for heating the lunch meals, and the milk cart and supplies, and it does worry me as a safety issue when kids are going full board in PE, which is what we want them to do, that there's going to be an accident, kids running headfirst into something that's along the wall. Each student is required by the state to have 100 minutes of PE each week, but our students only receive 30 minutes. In large part, we don't have the space to have PE all day because we are having 3 lunch times. So it's often not able to be used for the purpose of a gym, which is for physical activity. Next, I'll talk about the playground. Our covered recess area is not conducive to the number of kids that are on recess during inclement weather. That is so awesome. You have to take a second to just enjoy that. Our principal, I'll just tell you briefly, our kids were able to spray her with, or squirt her with ketchup and mustard. You want to go back to it? It's enjoyable to watch.
Yes, it's nice.
And duct tape her to the wall, but we had to use a table. And they squirted her if we earned at least $7,000 in our fundraiser. And so that was a wonderful time. And so that was a great use of our gym that day. But for recess, we have at least, if you want to show, yeah, there's one recess picture. When it's a rainy day recess, we have up to 130 students out on the playground at a time. And that's about what it looks like with 2 grown-ups that are watching them. And there are very few things to do. There's absolutely no running. They're crowding together, trying to find some activity to get themselves warm and just to get their heart rates up. We just got our basketball hoops up just a few weeks ago. We hadn't had them the whole year. Let's see here. Kids are not allowed to run, as I said. The blacktop on the playground is cracked and warped, which is a safety issue with kids running, although they're not supposed to be running. There are uneven surfaces which create deep puddles for kids who get soaked and remain wet all day, which kids and water, they see it, they want to be in it. So it is hard to keep them out of it. And you can't see this, but there's a dripping pole that is on the end of the playground area. It's constant water coming down into the playground. It makes a big, huge puddle. So as kids are either out at recess, they see it and are tempted by it. And then every time they go, when kids are coming in from the bus or going out from the bus, if there's standing water there, it's always the potential for a jumping area. Exhaust from vehicles that are parked on the street accumulate underneath the outdoor covered area and just kind of hang there and make the air quality poor. We are not able to staff the field that is next to our school. I've heard people say, well, you guys have a field, why don't you use it? The problem is that there's a road that separates our school from that field, and kids are not able to go there unless they are with an adult. You have to have a key to unlock the gate and then go over to cross the road and then unlock that or open that gate. And we have not used it yet this year. Today, this is our 46th day of school. We've not been able to use it because we're not able to staff it. Okay, I think that's all that I have. Does anybody from our group want to add to that?
Okay. Karen, were you going to talk about the playground and some of your students? Was somebody going to mention that?
Yes, I have the disabled population of students traversing the playground, especially during inclement weather when there's 130 kids out there, is tough. A lot of my kids have sensory overload and they cannot go out there, and that includes the other basic skills classroom as well. And it's just a safety hazard for kids in wheelchairs. I have a little 5-year-old girl who, is learning how to walk in her walker, and I cannot tell you how many times she's almost been run over by kids because they don't pay attention where they're going and they run into them. Or I'm trying to wrangle 3 kiddos because of staff, and one is running out in the rain, one is running away in his walker, and I have to manage watching a lot of kids at the same time to make sure nobody gets hurt. And I know that's a challenge at most schools, but it's significant at ours because of the lack of space.
Wait, I wanted to add something. I would invite you to drive around to schools around the state of Oregon and see if you see any that are surrounded on all four sides by streets, by busy streets. As a staff, we really believe that is a safety issue, that also just making sure that our kids are safe from any intruder that could possibly come in our area. Our kids are just like open and, yeah, sitting, I don't want to say that, but that is a real big safety issue for us.
All right, the next part we're going to talk about is the ceilings.
And Dana Peterson, our basic skills teacher, was going to be here tonight to do that, but I got it instead. One of the things that happens when it rains hard is we have water intrusion. During the last big storm, water leaked through the roof in room 5, ruining computers. During hard rains, the basement floods, leaving dampness and moldy smells behind. The rain, like Tina said, also leaves many puddles on the playground and around the mobile classrooms. And there was a picture of that. That's what room 5 ceiling looks like right now. After the water, it's been dried out, but it's left exposed. The standing water from rain around the mobile classrooms is a real problem. We end up with students, of course, they love, like he said, they love to jump in the water. And we're left with cold students that have a really hard time focusing on their learning. Even when they change, their hair is wet, their feet are wet, it's a regular problem. Parking is another big issue at Eugene Field. Like Tina said, we are surrounded on 4 sides by streets. Remember that on 2 sides, it's Highway 214, and they're also business and church parking in those same areas. We frequently get complaints from local businesses saying their customers have nowhere to park. If there is a funeral during the school day, the church asks us to have our staff move their cars so they have parking enough for people to attend the funeral services. Right past where that woman is standing is the parking lot for the church, which is where students are dropped off by parents in the morning. It's the car drop-off. So there's cars lined up down First Street, which is also Highway 214, waiting to drop their kids off. We have crossing guards that cross the students to the school grounds, but parents don't like to wait in those lines. And so they're often trying to circumvent the line by dropping their kids off in other places. I have found kids come to the door on First Street right across the street from the church, which is not an entry, to the entry by Mr. Johnson's classroom, which is also not an entry for students, but that's where their parents have dropped them off at. And no matter how much we have educated and explained, the parents don't want to wait in that long line. It's very long. And so those kids are either walking around the school unsupervised, or hopefully somebody sees them and lets them in. That happens quite often. Another piece with the space that Dana was going to talk about was we have some information from a group called the American Planning Association, and they recommend that an elementary school with 450 students or so should be placed on a site over 9 acres of land. Eugene Field, their site is only about 3.9 acres. There is not a quiet space inside the building that you can assess individual students or small groups without distraction. Teachers have placed, like we've seen, small classroom computer labs in closet spaces. We are out of room. We need to add 2 more kindergarten rooms for all-day kindergarten. Our ELD teacher, Mrs. Mannion, teaches out of an office space, and she serves over 75 ELD students. We would really like to have a stationary computer lab, although I don't know that that's going to pan out just because of where our technology is going. We'd like to have a separate cafeteria so we can use our gym space. And we have literally used every closet for instruction. We need more room. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Inga Mannion. I currently am the English language development teacher full-time at Eugene Field. It's only my 3rd year at Eugene Field and my 4th year in the district, but I have taught in 4 different school districts and several other schools. I came to Eugene Field to teach the kindergarten classes that were called the bilingual classes. I was really astounded by the logistical challenges with the facilities. At the time, we had 6 kindergarten classes, averaging 22 students per class. And I felt we were losing a lot of instructional time because our building floor plan is so spread out. Our buses are at the other end of the campus. And the playground is, again, very spread out. And we do have a lot of kindergarten kids actually who eat lunch. In addition, they eat lunch at our school and also breakfast at our school, just to add to the number we're serving. Those kids were walking long distances to get from the bus to their meal, then to the classroom, and all the way to the playground. It was a lot of lost instructional time. That was unfortunate. I was also really distraught when I realized that quite a number of families who live in the attendance area were choosing to send their students, their children, elsewhere. And we chose to send our children to Eugene Field and Mark Twain because those are our neighborhood schools. And in spite of the facilities challenges, I'm very pleased to say that they've both been receiving an outstanding education because they've had extremely dedicated teachers. So I'm very, very pleased with their education, but I do feel we could make it even better if we made some changes to the buildings. We touched upon the sound challenges. It depends where you are in our building, because if you're on the street side, you tend to get rooms that are too hot and then you get the street noise. If you're on the other side of the hallway, you get different noise. But ironically, we were advised to keep our windows and doors open as much as possible to increase the airflow. So the first thing I do when I get to work is open my windows and turn on the air purifier that I purchased to try to get some wind, some movement of the air. It's just that many times I do need to shut my hallway door because our food services people are having to move the metal carts up and down the hallway, and their old wooden floors are very creaky, and the carts are coming and going, kids are coming and going to the bathroom right next to my room, my office space. In looking toward the future, I think to really serve the population of students who I am teaching, I would greatly benefit from a larger classroom because the majority of my 75 students do not have internet at home or computers or iPads. And really, I need to be reaching out to the families if I'm going to try to meet their needs better. Then I need to have a space that will enable me to store some resources and is a little bit more inviting to the families in the afternoons or the evenings. And I think that would be a way that my program could be greatly improved. The parent complaints regarding the air in the building are difficult to substantiate. I know that the air quality has been studied in depth. I know at least 3 staff members who've had sinus surgery, and I know numerous staff members who have had chronic sinus infections and respiratory problems such as bronchitis. And the air purifiers seem to help some of us. It's just hard to really know. I think also in the wake of the Sandy Hook incident, I've really read a lot about how newer schools are being built in a manner that would be a little bit safer. I know the district is committed to trying to help our students be as safe as they can. I know that they've hired a consultant to train us if there's an armed intruder, how would we deal with that. when I look out my window at the asphalt playground that is surrounded by chain link fence and right next to a pretty busy street, and I think about the doors that all open to one key, every door in every room in our entire building open to the same key. And I think about the number of outside groups who do use the building in the evenings and on weekends. I really don't feel very secure with the layout of the building and the key distribution. And just in my classroom where I taught kindergarten, 10 feet from the doors was First Street. We do have over 100 students who are just 5 years old, and they get anxious. And there are occasionally kids who try to leave the building, leave the classroom or leave the building because they're homesick and upset. And we're a very short distance from the busy street, but if we put a chain lock on the door, then we're locking them in. I think that's a fire hazard. We don't have an alarm system. We do exit through that door during a fire drill, and then we walk all the kindergarten kids down the sidewalk, the first graders as well, down this narrow sidewalk along First Street, cross the street, and then go to the field when we're evacuating during the fire drill. So I think that's around 150 to 200 students exiting that way down the sidewalk. So, you know, that is our exit during emergencies, but I just think that possibly a new school that had like double doors upon entrance or some type of alarm system or different sections where, you know, you could lock different buildings like you do here at the high school. You can lock different sections and there's an alarm system in place. It would feel more secure to the teachers and the students and the families who are trying to decide whether to send their own children to the neighborhood school. That's it.
Felt really weird having all of you behind me. Maybe I'll come around.
Are you done with the slides?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
okay.
we are. Yeah. Right now, you're going to be behind me.
I'm going to speak as a parent. I am a teacher, but I just like to speak to you as a parent of 3 little boys. We realize that Eugene Field is a special place, and we realize that people aren't willing to let go of the current facility, but new memories will be made. Family, staff, and most importantly, students make a great school, not the building. I have 3 beautiful boys, and all will be attending Eugene Field. My oldest is currently in kindergarten right now. His preschool was longer than his current kindergarten day. I hope for my boys that they can walk into a computer lab that works, that they can use restrooms that flush and not have to wait in line for everything. I hope for them they can have clean drinking water with fountains that work, have a safe place to run, even when it's raining. And we know that boys need to run. I hope that they can have 100 minutes of PE each week. I hope for a clean learning environment and a school that doesn't sit in between 2 of the busiest streets in town. I hope that they can sit in a gym that's not overcrowded and know that they are safe and exit if they need to exit in an emergency. I live in Silverton and I pay taxes, and I want what's best for our community, and we need to come together and take care of our youngest members of our school district.
So I also have a 7-year-old that's a 2nd grader at Eugene Field. It's only my 2nd year teaching here, and I love teaching here, and I will continue to love teaching here. You guys have all heard from contractors, structural engineers, air quality people. Now you have heard from teachers and parents' perspectives. Everything we have shown you and attested to you tonight is purely out of concern and care for our students, and many of us for our children. We want them to be able to access technology in a safe, reliable, and time-conscientious way. We want these 450 children to feel protected and secure. We want them to study, to learn, to make friends, and to have wonderful lives in our school and in our classrooms. Our students love our school. They know nothing better. But as teachers and as their parents, we have a responsibility to provide them the very best in education, safety, and in love. That's it.
And that's our presentation. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have just one small question. I appreciate the presentation. I think that this is very helpful. You know, the issue, of course, is where do we get the money?
Exactly.
Okay. You referenced the ideal size according to one entity, and I don't remember what
American Planning Association.
The American Planning Association. Thank you.
And I'm sure that there are others
Right.
that have recommendations, but
I'm sure. I'd just like to
Absolutely.
do some research. Okay, so thank you very much.
Anything else?
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much for coming. Really good presentation, very informative.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks very much. And I think
We would love to have you come, and I know you're busy and have other things that you're doing as well, but we'd love to see you.
I think the entire community is incredibly grateful for the work that you do, and especially in the difficulties that you have with facilities. So
Thank you.
it was even more apparent tonight, so thank you very much for what you do for our kids.
Yeah,
While
that's
you're
one thing
working.
is really bad.
Thank you very
Well, that's
much.
one thing I think teachers at our school will continuously say, we have a great school, we do, but our building is failing.
Yes.
But our school is a great school.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.